All I'm saying is, if you got me anywhere outside the top 3, you better change your fucking list.
Sandow Trophy. The check for $400,000. The Olympia gold medal. And the title of 2015 Mr. Olympia. To your 5-time champion, again, Phil Heath.
I thought I was seeing it what everybody else was seeing. Let's just say that. I'm gonna get him next year.
This decision wasn't just made overnight. This is something that I've been pondering with for the last 8, 9, 10 years. So I decided to come out of retirement, do what I can do best, and take it to the stage at the Mr. Olympia, baby. So I'll see you guys there.
This is a message for all you doubters. This is a message for everyone who supports and believes in me. I love you guys.
Till the 2016 Mr. Olympia weekend, and this will be our final in-studio show as we will lay it all out on the line, make our predictions. This is, ladies and gentlemen, GuruMania Part 2 Iron Debate, the Olympia 2016 Special Edition. I'm your host, Dave Palumbo. GuruMania Part 2 is brought to you by SciTech Nutrition. Visit SciTechNutrition.com. We thank SciTech Nutrition for all the generous support that they have provided us in RxMuscle's road to the 2016 Olympia and all the support they will be providing us with this upcoming weekend as Dave Palumbo, Johnny Styles, and myself will be boarding a plane tomorrow afternoon to Las Vegas to bring you wall-to-wall coverage of the 2016 Olympia. We are joined by special guest Chad Nicholls, the man they call the Diet Doc, joining us live from Springfield, Missouri. Chad, it's our first time having you on Iron Debate, and you join us in the fray 3 days before the Olympia. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'll tell you what, this is always a cool time because everybody's getting hyped up, and especially, I mean, for people that are, have been down this road with athletes, this time is so cool because it's kind of a make or break, and you get to kind of see how the athletes progress. It's kind of a nerve-wracking time, as Chris obviously understands this aspect of it, but it's also the time when everybody is supercharged because the possibilities are endless going into the show.
Call the technician. Usually he joins us out of Portland, Maine. Well, right now he is stationed in Las Vegas, and he will certainly be one of the busiest men this upcoming weekend. You check his Instagram, and some of the premier names who are going to be competing are coached by Chris. Chris, 3 days out. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I got here yesterday, and it's Tuesday. As Chad knows, the show's on Friday, so a lot can go good and a lot can go wrong between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. At this minute, the guys in the show, the number one recommendation I could make for anyone in the show is, there's a long time between now and prejudge, and be patient, because if you're impatient, anything that could possibly go wrong, it could go wrong.
Before I introduce the man in studio, the man with the final word, I just wanted to present the speciesnutrition.com special right now on the website. The Survival of the Freakiest. These zip-up hoodies are available for, if you make a purchase of $20 minimum after all discounts, you get this for free, as you see on the screen right there. Dave, you want to talk a little bit more about the Survival of the Freakiest zip-up hoodies?
Well, as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, I'm moving the business down to Florida. RxMuscle, Species Nutrition, myself, Johnny and Kareem, we're all moving down to Florida. Sid will be working remotely with us, of course. We're not losing him. And I have to empty my warehouse. I have a lot of inventory here, and I can't bring everything with me. So I am making it available to you guys for free. Zero, no money. $40 sweatshirts, okay, zips hoodies that I love, and I will be wearing at this Olympia weekend, by the way. I wear them all the time on the plane. They're super comfortable. They're not too heavy. They're not too light. They're just right, as Little Red Riding Hood said, I think. Anyway, all you have to do is purchase $20 or more. That means that, if you're using discount codes, you still have to come out to a $20 purchase or more, and we will put in a free sweatshirt. You can pick your sizes anywhere from small up to triple extra large. They're available now on speciesnutrition.com. When I run out, that's it. So people have been asking me, how long does this offer stand? It stands as long as we have inventory. So take advantage of it. Hopefully you guys will love them. They're great sweatshirts, and I'm making them available to you because of my misfortune of having to move everything I have in my life down to Florida.
Before the YouTube crowd jumps in, it was the Three Little Bears with the just
Thank
right.
you. Sir. Well, Little Red... Oh, no, it's not Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, yeah, it was Little Red Riding Hood was in the Three Bears, wasn't it?
Was she?
Yeah, Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Bears? No.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
We are 3 days away from the 2016 Olympia, and by all accounts, there has been so much banter, so much prognostication. This is, by all accounts, the deepest lineup that we're going to have over the course of the last decade or so. By far, one of the most memorable Mr. Olympia competitions that we have had in recent memory. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the fact that you have the end of a 13-year hiatus by Kevin Levrone. You have Phil Heath, who will be competing for what will be his 6th straight Sandow. You have Dexter Jackson, who has carved his niche as someone who never comes in off, came in second last year, won the Arnold Classic in 2015. He's coming in, and already you saw at the top of the broadcast, he is bringing the heat, and he already has issued a salvo that anybody that has him outside of the top 3 better reassess. Big Ramy, whether or not this is going to be the year that he finally breaks through. So many storylines, so much to discuss, and at the end of this broadcast, you will have the official RxMuscle predictions. As we start this evening's episode with 10-time Miss Olympia, Iris Kyle. Last year, we had her on live with that episode is available on RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Here's the story. Iris Kyle was told that she had to re-qualify for the Rising Phoenix World Championships. Now, keep in mind, for those unaware, this Olympia no longer has a women's bodybuilding showcase. So essentially, the women's bodybuilding Super Bowl is the Rising Phoenix World Championship. Well, Iris Kyle was told that she had to re-qualify. Okay, Iris Kyle then speaks to Jim Manion. Jim Manion clarifies that as a Miss Olympia, Iris Kyle never has to requalify for an IFBB competition. That rule is set. Iris Kyle came on these airwaves of RxMuscle last week and said that allegedly she was told by the promoters that she had to come in a little bit soft. She feels disrespected. Does she have a gripe here? Chris, we're going to go to you first on this one. Iris Kyle, 10-time Miss Olympia, was she disrespected?
Well, you know what? This is a sport that, by definition, disrespects people. I mean, Dexter's already laid down the gauntlet. Don't disrespect me if you don't have me outside the top 3, or, that's a disrespect to me. Here's what's potentially disrespectful. Just the idea that could possibly be floated that somebody who has won an Olympia title, Miss Olympia or Mr. Olympia, would have to qualify for a show, period. I mean, that's just it's unfathomable, because those people who have won a single Olympia title, their names are etched in bodybuilding history. Dexter's got one, period. He's, that makes him automatically, a legend, outside of his accomplishments. Even if he only won 2 other shows instead of the 40 that he's up, that he's won or whatever. Our sport, by definition, should always respect somebody who's won the Olympia title, and that is a rule. The idea that she should come in soft, or I'm not privy to that conversation, but it's women's bodybuilding. That same nonsense has been floated around for 15 years. Like, well, Kim, if you come in not as drawn this year, you'll win. And then you don't come in as drawn and you come in fuller and you end up 3rd, and you say, well, that didn't work. So at the end of the day, as a champion, you have to play your own game and come in the way that you want to come in. Shame on you to try to, quote, listen. It sounds, to the chatter of the way you should come in, whether you're a female bodybuilder or a men's bodybuilder. And you'd think that Iris, with 10 wins under her belt, would just say, screw it, I'm Iris Kyle. I'm coming in the way I want. It's kind of odd for me to think that her as a champion, how many times she's won, that she would even consider anything but coming in at her best, however she defines it.
Let's go to you on this one. You heard the storylines. In your opinion, Iris Kyle, 10-time Miss Olympia, was she disrespected in this instance?
I absolutely think she was, and I think there's numerous people that was really disrespected out of this whole scenario. When everything came down, I mean, it was obvious, and we're very aware that the promoters don't like Iris, and so because of that, they didn't want her in the contest. So that kind of comes down. They actually originally went, I believe, to Jim Manion to see if they could keep her out, and they were told no, they absolutely couldn't keep her out. Then they tried to kind of play the whole thing with the requalification. So in my mind, it's disrespectful to a lot of people because, first of all, I think it's obviously disrespectful to Iris. She has earned her right to compete in whatever show she would want to. And as a promoter, and I promote 6 shows, the whole thing is you want big name people in your show. I don't care if you like them or not. I don't care if you like that physique or you don't like that physique. It's about giving the fans what they want, treating athletes the way they all should be treated across the board evenly. So I think it was very disrespectful to her. I also think that it was drastically disrespectful to Jim Manion because they didn't want her in the show. They went to Jim. They didn't really get the answer that they wanted. So they created a scenario, for whatever reason, that Iris maybe felt maybe disrespected. She felt unsure of how she was going to be treated there, or for whatever reason, but they created a scenario that still got them the outcome that they wanted, her not in the show. So I think that was very disrespectful. I also believe that it was very disrespectful to Margie Martin, because here is a girl that potentially, and we don't know, but potentially could have beat Iris. And so she has now had that taken from her across the board. She's never going to be able to get that back. if you were trying to make a statement, that would have been a great statement. Listen, we put Iris in the show, and hey, she got beat by Margie. And at the end of the day, they're two similar physiques but different physiques, and so that very easily could have happened. So, do I think it was disrespectful? Yes, I think it was disrespectful. The flip side of this is Iris, if she would have wanted to force the issue, could have potentially competed. I believe it just depends on the route that she went. If she would have said, F it, I'm going to go there. And that's what I would have done. If and I know it's what my wife, Kim, would have done. If somebody would have tried to take her out of that, she would have been like, listen, piss on you. I'm going to go there. I'm going to take your money. I'm going to take your Jeep. I'm going to take everything. And I'm going to do it my way. So there's kind of both sides of that. But the answer is yes, I think there was a lot of people disrespected.
Last point, that's exactly what it seems as if Iris felt, that she was going to be set up to not win no matter how she showed up. And then again, allegedly, she was told to show up a little soft in a sense to perhaps justify her not winning. What do you make of that?
Well, I believe that actually happened, because if you look at the contest and you look at several of the people in there, and this is something like, look, if you don't hear it from the IFBB, don't ever go down that road. You have to be what you want to be. As an athlete, if you are used to coming in a certain way, that's the way you go, unless it comes down from Jim Mannion. Listen, if it doesn't come down from Jim Mannion, then it's all BS. Until it comes down from him, it means nothing. If it's from a promoter or if it's from this, it means nothing. But if you look at the athletes, and I can pick out a couple right off the bat, Helly Nielsen is always shredded. Her glutes always shredded. And she came in a little softer. And Isabel Terrell also came in drastically softer and drastically smaller. So you almost wonder if they didn't maybe pick and choose some people and say, hey, listen, we're kind of going for a different look. We would like for you to come in a little softer. We would like for you to come in a little toned down, because that's kind of what we're going for. And then, like Chris said, what ends up happening is the show is then judged exactly the way it's supposed to be judged. And those people look like they're out of shape, and they end up 3rd and 13th. So I believe that actually happened, probably.
Oh, just one more thing, Chad. Again, when you consider the fact that Alina Popa received a special invitation to this show, what kind of a message are they sending in light of this, very much now public controversy, to not extend that kind of a courtesy to arguably the most decorated bodybuilder, male or female, in Iris Kyle?
Well, I think it sends a message that you're going to kind of pick and choose who you like. And I think I don't really think that the promoters have really beat around the bush the fact that they don't like Iris. And I think they've been very open to the fact that they do like Elena. And so I think that kind of shows that. But when you go down that road, it is a very, very sketchy road, because what's to say that next year they look at this contest and go, you know what, we're kind of tired of paying, Margie, $50,000, and we're tired. And she's got 2 Jeeps now. We don't really want her in the show either. So we're going to make her qualify too. Like as one of the competitors, they have to be very cautious of what they do. I think it was very, straightforward on what the promoters wanted. They wanted certain people in the show. They obviously want to go down a certain road as far as conditioning and the look the women portray. And that would be great if it changed across the board. But I think that you, as a promoter, you have to be very honest. You have to be very open as far as across the board. Every athlete has to be treated exactly the same, no matter if you like them or not. It's a bodybuilding contest. It's not a popularity contest, and that's the way it has to be. So you can't kind of pick and choose who you want in the show.
Back here in studio, go to Dave Palumbo for the final word on this topic. Dave, in your opinion, given all the storylines, was Iris Kyle disrespected?
We got to look at it from this perspective. Here is a group of women that have been excluded from the sport, right? They got rid of the Miss Olympia. First, they got rid of the Arnold Classic Miss International. Then they get rid of the Olympia. These women had nowhere to go. The Wings of Strength people put up the money and saved the sport. So it's like taking the, it's like I don't even have a good analogy. They got rid of these people, and now they're trying to get rid of some of their own. I mean, is it crazy? You can't. Women's bodybuilding is what it is. It's about who's the biggest, best shape with the best conditioning. It was too extreme for what the IFBB felt was mainstream, and so they kind of pushed it off to the side, and they made women's physique. Okay? You can't change women's bodybuilding. It's still got to be about the core of women's bodybuilding. What looks the best? Iris has been the best for 10 years. Is she still the best? Well, let's get her up on that stage and see. How could they try to exclude her? And it was so obvious that they did. There's so much evidence there. You don't give a special invite to Elena Popa, who was second place. She could have requalified for the show if she wanted to, and not give not invite Iris Kyle to the thing. Now I hear that next year they're going to make this Rising Phoenix show an invitation only. I mean, how hypocritical is it for the most excluded people in our sport to exclude people from competing in it? And their contest, it's ludicrous in my mind. And on the same side and on the other side of the coin, I'm super happy that they have this show and they're giving all this money away to the women. But guys, wake up! You guys gotta invite anyone and everyone who wants to do your show, because, like Chad said, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
We wanted to welcome in the man they call boss number 2 as John Romano joins us here on GuruMania 2. John, how are you feeling 3 days out of the Olympia?
3 days away. It's unbelievable. I can't wait.
Well, John, let's throw you in right away because we were pretty much rounding out the first topic, and that was of Iris Kyle. And you know the storyline by now in the sense that she did not earn, or rather, she wasn't invited as an automatic qualifier to the Rising Phoenix World Championships. Jamanian steps in and says that as a Miss Olympia, she has the right to compete at any show that she would like, at any IFBB show that she likes. Then allegedly gets a phone call basically saying, hey, come in a little softer than you would ordinarily come in. She feels disrespected. Does she have a valid gripe in this case, in your opinion?
Yes, of course. I mean, she's the best bodybuilder on earth. You don't tell her what to do. I mean, to exclude her, it's like excluding Ferrari from the Formula One championships. How do you do that? How do you take the best female bodybuilder out of what is supposed to be the rising, phoenix of top-ranked bodybuilding shows for women? I mean, I think that's ridiculous. They're obviously sending a message that they don't like her. So, to extend an invitation to Alina Popka and not Iris Kyle is just a blatant, expression of the fact that you don't want Iris in your contest. You don't want Iris representing the top of all women's bodybuilding. You obviously have an issue with the way she looks. You're not going to tell her to come in softer. It's like, would you tell that to Mr. Olympia? I mean, this is bodybuilding. They obviously don't want her. So, it's their show, and it's obviously what they're trying to do. It just really sucks that they're doing it.
Let's move on now to our second topic of debate. Again, you're watching GuruMania Part 2 Iron Debate, T-minus 3 days from the Olympia Weekend 2016. I'm your host, Deep Faruqi. We are joined by John Romano, Chris Aceto, Chad Nicholls making his Iron Debate debut, and of course, Dave Palumbo here in studio. We are going to be flying out to Vegas tomorrow. We're going to cover the Olympia press conference on Thursday, the Meet the Olympians on Thursday night, and then, of course, our preview videos, athlete interviews, wrap-up videos, a whole lot more. Keep it locked to RxMuscle.com. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss any of the videos that we put out this upcoming weekend. And, of course, sign up for the Muscle Central Forum so you have full access to our contest gallery. Flexitron. Last year in the pre-judging, there were all sorts of whispers that Shawn Rhoden, this is it. This is the year. Shawn Rhoden is about to dethrone Phil Heath. And then he didn't. In the night show, Phil Heath came in, and with all the fury of a man trying to gun for Sandown number 5, and he ended up retaining his title. Many again are wondering whether or not this is the year that Shawn Rhoden can go on to become Mr. Olympia. So John Romano, we're going to start with you on this one. Can Shawn Rhoden win the 2016 Olympia?
He could have until Kevin Levrone decided to compete. So that's kind of blew things for him. I think, Shawn Rhoden and to an equal degree, Big Ramy are the two guys that could probably, if Kevin wasn't competing, give Phil a run for his money. So I think Phil should be worried that, either Flexitron or Big Ramy is going to knock him out of second place. But Kevin's winning, so I think Flexitron is going to have to wait another year.
Let's go to Chad Nicholls. Chad, where do you see, we'll just ask you flat out. Is this the year, in your opinion, that Shawn Rhoden can come in and win the Olympia?
I believe so, and I told Chris this. He is one of the only guys in this lineup that actually possesses a physique that could beat Phil. And I think there's a lot of things that have to happen for him to win. I mean, obviously there has to be some cooperation from Phil. We need to see the door open a little bit. But we've seen that door wide open for the last, 2 to 3 years. So is it going to be the same old battle, or are we going to see Shawn really kind of step it up? Chris is saying he's at his all-time best, and I think that if he is a little bit sharper, I think the things that we have missed from him is we see his physique, we see from every angle he has the ability to take Phil out, and he lacks that last finished look, that little crisp dryness that just pushes him over, and you're kind of like, wow, that's it. If he has that, that may be 5%. If he has that little bit and Phil is lacking that last 5%, I would say yes, he has a shot at winning, and I think he has a really good shot. And here's the thing. He's, Kai Green never scored a point against Phil. We know that Shawn did. And, people are like, oh, he scored 1 point. Well, they throw out 3 highs and 3 lows. So we know that he had to have at least had 4 first-place votes last year. If he is a little bit better this year, and with the way that Phil has looked the last couple of years, I believe that Shawn could easily win this show.
Let's go ask you sort of a corollary to this, because on this show we have discussed Shawn Rhoden and his form in 2014, and then of course his form in 2015. And I started this topic saying how in the prejudging last year, many thought that the way that Shawn came in and the way that Phil came in prejudging, that this was going to be the moment that Shawn dethrones Phil and ends his 5-year reign. Well, in 2014, so much of the talk was whether it was going to be Phil or whether it was going to be Kai, but in many opinions, it really seemed as if Shawn Rhoden was the best bodybuilder on that stage. Where do you fall on Shawn Rhoden's 2014 and 2015 form?
I think 2014 he was good. I think 2015 there was one glaring flaw. I think that they looked up there, and when you look up there and you're determining who is going to take out a champion, and it's been done very few times, when you look up there can't be something that jumps out at you. And the one thing that was just kind of a kink in his armor last year was the fact that he had a little bit of trouble controlling his breathing. And it was, something that we had never really seen from Shawn before. I thought his conditioning was good. I would still like to see him just a little bit drier in a couple areas. But the one thing that just kind of puzzled everybody was he had a little bit of trouble kind of keeping his midsection a little bit tight, that core area really tight, and his breathing was kind of all over the place just a little bit. I think that was just enough for most of the judges to say, you know what, we can't dethrone Phil with that because we've got one glaring flaw. If that is fixed, and there's nothing that really stands out like a flaw, that there's something that looks like, oh, this is a problem, I think that will be the key. I think it's just when you start adding things up, he has to have more pluses than Phil.
Chris, let's go to you. You know more about Shawn Rhoden than anybody on this panel. In your opinion, can Flexitron win the 2016 Sandow?
I think he can, and I think you could argue that he won the prejudging in 14 and 15. And, I think he can because, he looks really good. And Shawn is the type of person who knows how to deal with pressure. And right now he feels 0. On a scale of 1 to 10, it does not register. In other words, he's here to do a job. He's focused on, on the show. And, while he might, like all the other guys, be, running around on Instagram and Facebook and reading comments, the difference between, Shawn and Phil is if you say that Phil has no ab shot, which he doesn't, and he's listening to the show right now, he'll have a, him or his, girlfriend will have a, a Twitter war with Chad. Whereas Shawn, if you say, Chad says he has difficulty, with his breathing last year, he just, he'll is okay. That's something I need to correct, and just go with the flow. And at this level, when these guys are that close, I think that plays to his advantage. I think it plays to Dexter's advantage too. I mean, I don't think Dexter has any worry because people are already counting him out. That's why he's already said, people need a lobotomy who counting me out of the top 3. But you know what? He don't care. He's come in with his best package, and he's got nothing to lose. Shawn's got nothing to lose. All the pressure is on Phil, and the pressure is on Phil in that, thought we need to see, whether it be bigger condition, something needs different so that we're not talking after, is he in the lead or is he not in the lead?
Chris, let me jump in here real quick, because from the last 2 years, in your opinion, and obviously how he looks, that aside, and from his mental approach, from the way that he has approached this prep, understanding that 2 years in a row, many have placed him as, if not the winner, but 1A or 1B on the Olympia stage. Have you noticed any tangible differences in his approach, in his psychology coming into this Olympia, and what can you specifically share that would open up an idea of how Shawn Rhoden is approaching this 2016 Olympia?
You're breaking up a little bit, but the difference is I think that he is, he is here in his mind to come out and win. I think in previous years, he's had the mentality, I'm going out there and show the judges that I can win. I think there's a difference. I think that after the last 2 years, he's, sealed it in his being that he is more than capable, has all the tools to win the show. And, it's my hope that, that's reflected in his persona when he competes, because he does have the tools. He has the tools, and what we've never seen a Phil and Shawn call out. If we see a Phil and Shawn call out, I just think that Shawn will beat him, because to summarize what the diet doctor said is that that Shawn has a physique more that it tends to resemble to some degree. It's in the category or the species of Phil where everyone else has different bodies. You know what I mean? There's some structural similarities, and there's some strengths that he's been known to have that.
Chris, you're cutting out a little bit. Johnny, let's see maybe if you can reconnect with Chris. Chris, of course, is joining us live from his hotel room in Las Vegas. Chris is working with so many different athletes, is there in advance of the Olympia, working with his competitors. Dave, let's go to you in studio here for the final word on this one. Shawn Rhoden, very impressive showings in 2014 and then super impressive into 2015 prejudging. This year, can he win the Olympia?
I think Chad hit it on the head on the nail there, or the nail on the head, when he said that the judges are looking for flaws. They're not looking. They know Shawn Rhoden's got the physique to be Mr. Olympia. They're looking for flaws now, and if they find a flaw, that's going to be an excuse not to give it to him. From the pictures I've seen, Chris sent me a picture a little earlier today. He looks amazing. Shawn Rhoden is the best Shawn Rhoden I've ever seen. Now, obviously, the show is not one today. It's going to be one on Friday and Saturday night, so he's going to have to bring that to the stage. But if Phil is a little off and Rhoden brings this look, I don't think Phil could I don't even know if Phil could beat him if Phil's at 100%. It's going to be a real battle between those two guys on stage. Obviously, I'm a big Levrone advocate too. I have Levrone winning the whole show, but I think that Rhoden, if other people come in off and they're not on their A game, he wins this Olympia.
Well, Dave, let's go back to what Chris just said, that if there is a call out. Now, last week's episode of Iron Debate, we established a scenario of a call out between Cedric and Phil Heath. If it's a call out between Rhoden and Phil Heath, do you agree with Chris in that he thinks Shawn Rhoden will win that one-on-one matchup?
Well, look, I was sitting next to Chris last year, and we were watching, and I thought Rhoden, even with that not one-on-one, I think Rhoden beat Phil Heath, at least at that prejudging, and I think that he had some kind of abdominal distension issue that cost him the Olympia. And I don't see it this year, and at least in the progress pictures Chris has been showing me. So whatever it was, he took care of it. And I think that Phil should be worried about Rhoden. I think structurally, we always talk about Phil having that beautiful structure, and that's how he outbeat a lot of guys. He doesn't have the dominant structure he used to, but Rhoden does. And I think that's what makes Rhoden so dangerous.
You're watching GuruMania Part 2 Iron Debate, the road to the 2016 Olympia, brought to you by SciTech Nutrition. Visit SciTechNutrition.com. RxMuscle, our entire team here, appreciative of SciTech Nutrition support of our road to the Olympia and all the support they're going to be providing us this upcoming weekend, as we are ready to provide you with wall-to-wall coverage from the 2016 Olympia. We're going to be taking off tomorrow afternoon and heading to Vegas. Thursday at noon is a press conference. Later in the night is the Meet the Olympians event. And, of course, we're going to be holding athlete interviews throughout the weekend. Wherever we may bump into them, we will have the interview. We'll put it on our YouTube channel for your availability. And then, of course, the preview videos, wrap-up videos, that and a whole lot more here on RxMuscle.com. Well, now we're just an inch closer away from making our 2016 predictions. But we first go to this question. Who will be the biggest surprise of the 2016 Olympia weekend? You look at this field, and again, we preface this at the top of the broadcast. This is going to be one of the deepest fields in contest history, definitely in recent memory, when you consider the return of Kevin Levrone, Phil Heath, Dexter Jackson, Big Ramy, and then you look at the battle for the top 6, battle for the top 10. You throw in new names like Nathan Diasha, Dallas McCarver, Justin Compton, Steve Kuklo, Lucas Oslittle. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Position to position, this is going to be one of the tightest Olympias we have ever seen. So, John Romano, let's go to you first on this one. In your opinion, who will be the biggest surprise of Olympia weekend?
Well, obviously, that's going to be Kevin Levrone. I mean, we have, but for a more important reason. For years and years and years since the 90s, every bodybuilding pundit has stipulated that the 90s bodybuilder would clean up if they were alive today, if they were competing today. And now here we have the first opportunity ever in 15 years that we have a 90s era champion. They're going to mix it up with the current batch of today's champions. Now we get to finally see, instead of putting, and I've said this before on the show, instead of sewing two pictures together on Instagram, we're going to get to see it live. We're going to get to see Kevin Levrone against the top, current crop of Olympia contenders. And we're going to finally answer that question once and for all. Were the 90s bodybuilders the best ever? We're going to see one of the best ever mix it up with the top row. And I think that is probably the most impressive and important thing that's going to happen this weekend.
Brad, before you answer the question of who is going to be the big surprise, again, the fact that we're having you on for the first time on this show, and after all the analysis, all the prognostication of this very deep and stacked Olympia field, just give us a general thought, your analysis of how deep you deem this field to be.
I mean, when you look at this lineup, It's huge because I mean, there's a bundle of guys that are 280 pounds. I mean, you've got Dallas McCarver that's 280 pounds. You've got Justin Compton, who is a big guy, carries a tremendous amount of muscle. I mean, Big Ramy. I mean, there's so many deep guys in this lineup, and I mean, you're going to see a guy that's going to place out of the top 10. That is a phenomenal bodybuilder, and I think that's the amazing part about where the sport has now kind of went back to. We've seen this in the 90s. We've seen guys, that was 8th and 9th place. That was guys that potentially could go to the Arnold and win. And we hadn't seen that for a while. I mean, usually you had 2 or 3 great bodybuilders and then it fell off, and you had another group of 3 and then it fell off, and it kind of went like that. But I think the big thing this year is you're going to see a lot of young guys really stake their claim. You're going to see Compton finally jump in there and try to prove how good he is. You're going to see Dallas McCarver. I think one of the big surprises, I don't even know if it's going to be a surprise, but Josh Lenardowitz out of Australia, I think he's going to do some serious damage. I think he's a legitimate top 6 guy. I think that's the big story this year. I think the old is you're going to see kind of fall out, and I think you're going to see the new group kind of emerge.
Here in studio, we'll reconnect with Chad momentarily, but it's funny, Dave, as we bring you in on this as well, this is the first time that we're having Chad Nicholls on Iron Debate, and for all the debate and discussion that we've had about this deep, stacked, and loaded Olympia field, it's always interesting to see what somebody else, I guess, that we haven't gotten a chance to speak to has to say about this field, and in comparison to recent memory, just how competitive it's going to be, not just in the top 6, not just in the top 10, but all the way through the field.
Well, the reason I like to get Chad on these shows, and I like to even involve him in wrap-ups, is because he's brutally honest, like I am, and like Chris is. He says what's on his mind. He's very articulate about the way he says it, and he's not afraid to hurt people's feelings. And unfortunately, most of the people out there, I'm not going to mention the other media outlets, they all say what they think they're supposed to say and what's politically correct. And you know what? To me, I can't even watch it. I turn it off when I see that. So Chad is a breath of fresh air in that sense. As far as my belief in who might be the dark horse in this lineup, there's 2, I think. I think Big Ramy is 1. While people are talking about him, I think no one really is talking about him winning the Olympia, and I think that he has a tremendous chance of winning the whole show. He's that good. He's got that many talents. He's got that much in his toolbox that if he brings his conditioning on the day of the show, he could knock everyone out of the ballpark. So to me, he's number 1. The second guy who's dangerous, who no one has mentioned on this show, not even once yet, is Cedric McMillan. Cedric McMillan, who beat Kai Green at the Arnold, even though he didn't get the win because Kai won the posing round. He beat Kai Green at the Arnold Classic, the guy who was second to Phil by points every single year for quite a number of years. He's very quiet, and a quiet Cedric McMillan is usually a dangerous Cedric McMillan. Assuming he doesn't get food poisoning, he's a guy who can surprise everyone in this lineup and be super dangerous. So I think Big Ramy's the number 1 danger of the dark horses, and I think Cedric McMillan is the second guy.
Chad, let's go back to you. Continue your thoughts on your assessment, again, of how deep you deem this field to be.
I'm not sure where you guys lost me at, but I think that, one of the things I was trying to make a point of is I think this is going to be the year that we see a lot of the young guys really step up to the plate. Dallas McCarver, Justin Compton, Josh. I mean, all of these guys are going to really stake a claim. And I think you're going to see potentially some of the guys that we've seen there over and over again start to be pushed out. And I think we're going to kind of get a sense of where this sport is. And I mean, there's a lot of big guys in this lineup. I mean, when you start thinking about, Dallas McCarver and how young this kid is and just how much potential and how big he is, that's a kid that's going to be there for a long time. And he could really stake a claim at a very high placing this year. And he's only going to get better. Same with Compton. We haven't really seen him against the elite. We've seen him at the Arnold. We've seen him compete a few times, but not when everybody brings their A game. So I think that's the thing that I'm the most excited about, is really kind of seeing who's really going to, kind of step up to the plate and see where those guys place and see, some of the Victor Martinez's and some of those guys, can they hold these young guys off and kind of really try to maintain their career for a couple more years?
when you consider so many of the newcomers that are figure to A, make an impression this weekend, and B, be around for quite a while. And then you mentioned the names of Victor Martinez, Ruli Winkler, essentially reformulated. But let's go back to the question, Chad. One athlete this Olympia weekend, in your opinion, that's going to be the biggest surprise come Sunday, Monday, when we're analyzing the show afterwards?
I think there's a couple guys. I think that obviously Big Ramy is the one guy that everybody's waiting to see. I mean, we know how big this guy is, and we know that we've never really seen him in a contest with somebody like Chris behind him. He has been kind of all over the place, and so the outcome has always been disappointing. And I think that this is the first year that we are really going to get a glimpse of what he is capable of. And I think that that is either going to be a huge positive. That's going to be the big thing, I think. I think we're either going to come off of this weekend going, holy crap, Big Ramy is, at least if he does, even if he doesn't nail it, we're going to say he's very close. They are starting to, answer all of the questions that they need answered, and he is going to be a major factor come, the next couple of years. Or it's going to be something like he has disappointed us again. What does it take for this guy to really kind of step it up? And I think Josh Lenardowitz, I think this is a guy that took third at the Arnold. I think he is another monstrously big guy. He's 280 pounds. I think he's the guy that's going to give a lot of people problems. He gets very hard. He's a conditioned guy. He's very young, so he's still raw, really learning his physique, how to present it and how to showcase it. And I think that he could be a guy that maybe a lot of people have a little bit lower in the 9th and 10th spots that could surprise a lot of people by maybe slipping into the 5th or 6th spot.
Chris, let's go to you as we now have you back. In your opinion, who will be the biggest surprise of this upcoming Olympia weekend?
I think I mentioned this yesterday. I think a real dark horse is Josh because he's a big guy, and the Olympia is about big guys usually. That's not saying that he's going to crash into the top 3, but if he comes in at his best, he's going to get some good call-outs. And when he gets those good call-outs, we're going to say, wow, he held his own with, XYZ, whoever that is. I think Compton is on the right track. He could be a big surprise because he's got a lot of gnarly muscle. And Dallas McCarver fills up a lot of space. That's not to say that, he still needs to mature in certain body parts, but the Mr. Olympia is traditionally about guys with tons of muscle, and those guys have a lot of muscle, and while we're talking about Dexter and Rhoden and Phil, and we throw in the Rammies and whoever else, Cedric, those guys are not on people's radar screens, and they probably should be.
Let's go now to what we've all been waiting for, what the audience has been waiting for, and our predictions. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go around the horn, and if you want to go in numeric order, your top 6, you're free to do so. If you want to just say, I think they're going to be in the top 6, you could do that as well. So Chris, let's go right back to you on this one. Who will be in the top 6 this upcoming weekend at the 2016 Olympia?
I'm going to go with last year's top 3 to start out with: Phil, Dexter, Shawn, Ramy, Cedric, and Josh.
Okay, so you have Josh Lenardowitz sneaking into that top 6.
Listen, the reason I throw him in there is because he's predictable. And Chad said it, he's a condition guy. I mean, he doesn't come in out of condition. So worst case scenario, if he's in condition, he was 3rd at the Arnold. Yes, Compton came in, way off. But that's Compton's fault. You know what I mean? Meaning, he still beat him. And that doesn't mean that I'm sure Compton's going to be better for this show, but most likely, Josh is going to be better for this show too. Keep in mind, Josh was like a nobody also 3 years ago, and he just couldn't, I remember seeing him at the Arnold, that Dexter won in Australia, and I think he was like 9th, and I thought he was like good enough to be top 3 easy there. You know, he wasn't at like the condition he is now, but he was in good condition, and he was very big, and he was very surprising. He just didn't get the calls to be able to, in his home country, to be able to land in the top 3. So I think he's like a dark horse, and he just strikes me as someone who's home training or has been training, dieting, and getting the job done without, engaging himself in all the drama. And that's a sign of a, dangerous bodybuilder, when you can just, put in the work and not worry about, what your Facebook fans are saying and your Instagram fans are saying, and getting the job done. I think he's a dark horse.
So there you go. Social media put that one on the record. Chris, the technician Aceto, has Josh Lenardowitz out of Australia, 3rd place at the 2015 Arnold Classic, placing in the top 6 this upcoming Olympia weekend. Sorry, Dave?
2016.
What did I say?
15.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm out of it. John Romano, you're up next. You could either say who's going to be in your top 6, or you can go numeric, 6 through 1, who you're going to have on the stage top 6 at this upcoming Olympia.
Well, in first place, I'm putting Kevin Levrone, of course. The other 5 after that could be in any order. Of course, it will be Shawn Rhoden, Dexter Jackson, Phil Heath. There's 4. I think I'm gonna give one of the new guys a top 6 entrance, probably Dallas McCarver, and my dark horse for the top 6 is going to be Rolly Winkler.
So I'm going to reiterate what John Romano just put out as his top 6. He has Kevin Levrone winning. He's going to have Dexter Jackson, Shawn Rhoden, Phil Heath, and then his 2 wild cards, Dallas McCarver and Rolly Winkler, in the top 6. That is going to elicit some major reaction momentarily. Chad Nicholls, let's go to you. Whether you want to go with your inclusive all top 6, or if you want to list 6 through 1, which one do you want to do here?
I'm just going to give you the guys that I think are going to be in the top 6, and I actually agree with Chris. I think the top 6 is going to fall, depending on what the guys look. I mean, there's so many possibilities. I think it's going to be Phil, Rhoden, Dexter, Rami, Josh, and Cedric. I think those are the 6 guys I see in the top 6, and there's so many possibilities there, because I think that the top 4 could really go any which way, and I think Rami has the ability to win everything. I think Rhoden has the ability to win anything, win everything. I think, everything is going to come down to a little help from Phil. He needs to open the door a little bit, but I'll tell you what, I think the possibilities are endless with those 4, and I think that Cedric showed us a lot at the Arnold. I think that based off of how the Olympia is judged, he clearly beat Kai. And I think that if he is anywhere close to that conditioning, I think that if he gets the comparisons that he probably should and will, I think he'll end up in the top 6. And I think Josh, size-wise, I think the benefit with him is he's big. I think he compares well with Big Rami, and I think he'll be right in there somewhere as well. That's my top 6.
Incredible. So 2 of the 3 panelists have Josh Lenardowitz out of Australia placing in the top 6. Chad Nicholls, to recap, he has Phil Heath, Shawn Rhoden, Dexter Jackson, Big Rami, Josh Lenardowitz, and Cedric McMillan. Cedric McMillan, of course, missing last year's Olympia. He has him slotting into that top 6. Now we go in studio, Dave Palumbo. Dave, you are going to list us your top 10. Let's go 10 to 1.
I'm so sick of the other shows, and now our show is doing the same thing. No one wants to give their predictions. It's a lot easier to give the top 6 in no numerical order than to give it in order. That's a prediction. I'm going to give it in order. I'll probably be wrong, but you know what? I'm putting it out there. You guys, I want to hear who you think is winning 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I don't want to hear a grouping. That's nothing. That doesn't tell me anything, because you could pretty much bank on at least 4 of those guys being in there, because they've been in there the last 4 or 5 years. I'm going with Kevin Levrone first. I said I was going to win the Olympia. I'm sticking with my prediction. I could be wrong, but if I'm right, John and I will be the only people in the industry who have predicted this. Kevin Levrone first, Shawn Rhoden second, upsetting Phil Heath, who will settle for third. Big Ramy in fourth place. I think he's going to look monstrous. I think he might just be 1 year away from winning the Olympia. Dexter Jackson in fifth, always dangerous. And look, the guy who's always in the best shape up there. I can't knock him out of my top five. Cedric McMillan, sixth place. He is the guy who I think is going to be the wild card in this lineup. He could even move up in placings depending on how he looks. I think Justin Compton will just get edged out by Cedric, but I think it's going to be very close for Cedric and Compton in seventh place. With Lenardowitz in eighth, I think he just doesn't have the structure to stand with these other guys. I think Compton, easily, should have beat him at the Arnold Classic, but he was off, so I think he will beat him at the Olympia. I think Compton has got his game down pat. Ruli Winkler, whose shape is going to hurt him, will have to settle for ninth, with Nathan Diasha, another new name, sneaking in that 10th position. I think Dallas McCarver is not going to make the top 10, even though that's sacrilegious to say it, and I'll tell you why. From the front and sides, he's unbelievable. And he will certainly be a future force. I don't think he's that dominant from the back. I think when he turns around, he's very vulnerable. I thought Akeem Williams beat him from the back, to be honest with you, at the Chicago Pro. So I think Dallas is going to have a big trouble with that, making that top 10. And I hate to say it, but Victor Martinez, who's looked as good as he's looked in a long time, is not going to make the top 10. I don't think he can edge out some of these guys, but I think it might be close between Victor and Nathan and Dallas for that top 10 spot there. But I'm going with the Levrone for the win, and I think Rhoden will be pushing him to. I think it's going to be a top three call out of Levrone, Rhoden, and Heath. That's going to be your call outs, with obviously Big Ramy and Dexter in that second group.
So we are getting questions and comments, fast and furious, on our RxMuscle YouTube chat, and a lot of the comments are about me. And yes, I am all natural. No, I will not tell you how. Never mind. One of the questions, and we'll go around the horn with this one, is about Ruli Winkler. And now we have, I believe it was one of the four panelists. Let's see who it was. It was John Romano picking Ruli Winkler in his top six. And many are saying that, well, you looked just a few months ago, and it was widely believed that Ruli Winkler beat Dexter Jackson at the New York Pro. Now, of course, Dexter Jackson came away with the win, and Ruli came in second, but they want to know, why is there not more consideration for Ruli Winkler crashing the party? We talk about, and I'll add this, again, the inclusion of social media now in terms of how it plays in the bodybuilding world. Well, Ruli Winkler has been one of the most pronounced as far as showing his progress, because there's been no mystery there, and many are just amazed by the pure muscularity he's been able to pack on over the course of the last few months. So, Chad Nicholls, we'll start with you right on this one. Why do you think Ruli Winkler won't crash that, if not top six party, if not better?
Well, I think he's a physique that everybody loves, and he's one of those guys that when you show him, and look, they time those pictures beautiful, man. They go in there, they train, whatever it is, they're training chest or whatever, and then they put those pictures out there on the internet, and everybody freaks out over him. He's a freak. He's a true freak. He's a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. We all love him as far as the way he looks. But here's the simple fact is, we have yet to see him in shape and full. Now, he did look good when he beat Dexter, but here's the thing: he kind of has to progress into that. He has to have the other guys kind of fade out a little bit. But when it's come right down to it, to peak for a show, that camp really has not been able to do it. They haven't been able to do it with anybody, really. And I think that's where everybody gets to knock on him. He's unproven. And if he shows up and he's peeled, he's a freak. He's in my top six for sure. But he has yet to do that, so I really can't give him the benefit of the doubt on that.
Let's go back to you. Now, you did include Ruli Winkler in your top six. Why do you think that more analysts aren't giving him a higher a prediction as far as where he'll finish, given what we've seen of him, a much more improved Ruli Winkler in 2016?
Well, I think it goes to what Chad said. We haven't seen him, at his full potential. But the pictures I've been seeing of him lately, especially very recently, I'm really, really impressed. And I'm seeing him, hard and fuller than I've ever seen him. So Maybe he's got it down this year. I'm kind of hoping for that because he's the physique I would have liked to have seen, come in, on the money. And I think if he does that this year, he's definitely a top 6 contender.
Chris, let's go to you on that one. Why do you think analysts aren't giving Rulli a more favorable prediction going into this Olympia?
Because you're going up against the tie-in guys. That's the Cedrics, the Dexters, the Heath and Rhoden. These are guys with all the weird tie-ins. You know what I mean? Where they just, and I mean that in a good way, where they just have the hamstrings that blast into the glutes or the separate. They just have unique looking physiques that it takes a ton of muscle to crowd them out. So yes, Raleigh has a ton of muscle, but then you have to factor in, other people with a ton of muscle, which is Compton. Which when I think if Compton is spot on, he can come in ahead of him. And when Josh is spot on, I think he can come in ahead of him. And then you've got as good as Raleigh is and as freaky as he is, he doesn't show up on stage like he does in those locker room photos, right? I mean, there is a difference. I mean, nobody will beat Raleigh if Raleigh shows up, in the locker room photos. Period. So photos don't mean anything anymore, right? Because anyone can look incredible on photos at any time. I mean, Shawn Rhoden sends me pictures, and I'm like, yeah, you look good. But when you see him in person, you look like, wow, you look really good. I think that his competitive history, too, at this show is a knock against him. I mean, it's not like last year, I think, was the first year that he got the big call out, when they called like 7 guys and he was right up there, and he deserved to be right up there in the first call out. But, even at the New York Pro, as crazy as he was and thick and this and that, by the night show, he was like water was coming from everywhere. So yes, he looked really good in prejudging, and yes, you could make the argument that there's just too much of him, too much dense muscle for him to lose the New York Pro. But it's a one-day show, and by the night show, he's glazed over 10 pounds, or it looks like 10 pounds. It may be 3 pounds or 4 pounds, but this show will probably be a conditioning war. And sometimes when you're really that big, right? And Dave and Chad both know this. When you're that big and you bring it all the way down, sometimes you're not really any more impressive than when you just came in big and full.
Dave,
it's not like he's not like a Coleman who can just peel it down and just like drop 30 and say, wow. When he drops 30, 10 is going to be muscle and 20 is going to be fat, and it's going to affect the way he looks.
Dave, let's go to you on this one. Again, you were one of the analysts that said that you believed that Rolly Winkler beat Dexter Jackson at the 2016 New York Pro. Why do you think he isn't getting more favorable pre-Olympia rankings going into this weekend?
Well, I think Chris said it best. He's structurally, he's not as good as these guys. He has more muscle than anyone up there per square inch. His conditioning, when he brings it, is excellent. I think he just structurally is gonna be at a deficit against the Shawn Rhodens up there and the Dexter Jacksons. When you start getting a bunch of shape guys up there with really genetically gifted structures, he sticks out like a sore thumb. And while it's impressive, and I'm sure backstage he's the most impressive guy back there. And when you'll see him on Sunday morning in the gym with a tank top on, for the photo shoots, people will think he's Mr. Olympia. It just doesn't play out that way on stage. Look, I was one of the biggest guys in the amateurs, and backstage, I'm sure guys were shaking in their boots when they would see how hard and big I was. And on stage, I structurally wasn't as good as a lot of these guys, and that's how I lost a lot of times. So I think that's what Rulli is. Rulli maximizes what he's got, but I don't think it's enough in this lineup to make the top 6.
That is going to do it for this episode of GuruMania 2 Iron Debate, as we give you our 2016 Olympia prediction. Special thanks, John Romano, and on the screen right there, Chris Aceto, and joining us for the first time on this show, Chad Nicholls. Guys, it was a lot of fun. We'll do it again after the Olympia, after all the dust has settled, and whether or not Phil or somebody else will be raising the Sandow this upcoming Saturday night. For Johnny Styles, Dave Palumbo in studio, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We will see you in Las Vegas.